spoilers ahead. Johnny's Halloween Picks. Psychological Edition.
If you're currently single, or you can remember a time when you were single, you might recall how challenging it can be to find somebody decent, especially if you're looking for that somebody on the internet. Fresh is a 2022 black comedy horror that examines the concept of online dating by cranking everything up to the nth degree. Now, if you've ever seriously worried about the potential dangers associated with online dating, you might want to give this one a miss. But if you feel you're able to stomach a bit of the old taboo, come and join me as we take a look at Mimi Cave's Fresh.
The plot.
After a slew of disappointing dates with men she's met online, a lovely girl from Portland named Noah bumps into a handsome, charming, random stranger named Steve while she's shopping for fruit and veg. And after a bit of the requisite awkward back and forth, they exchange numbers, and Noah couldn't be happier with the potential produce she's picked up. And sure enough, on their first date, everything clicks the way we all hope it would on a first date. Steve's funny and smart and good-looking and a plastic surgeon. Everything's pointing to them ending up in each other's arms. So they sleep together because being old-fashioned nowadays is old-fashioned. Then after a couple more dates, Steve takes things to the next level by inviting her away for a weekend break. Noah's best friend Molly's totally against the idea so early on, but Noah's a big girl, so she ignores her best friend's concerns and packs her weekend bag. And the day before they leave, they spend the night at Steve's fancy mansion so they can get a head start on the driving the next morning. But Noah's petite and Steve makes a mean drink, so she ends up wrecking the night by passing out early. And when she wakes up, she's chained to the ground in a room in Steve's house. Charming Steve politely, calmly, and articulately explains that he drugged her to keep her captive, so he can harvest her meat for wealthy clients who are willing to spend stupid amounts of money on it. And allow me just to say, that would never have happened to me, because if I was on a date with Steve and he tried drugging my drink, I'd have been all like, I gotta interrupt, Steve, and listen, I'd written a really funny bit about you being a butcher in relation to the decor you've chosen for this particular room, but we're gonna have to shelve that for a minute because right in the middle of writing the bit, the big joke of this film occurred to me. Meat market. And apparently, Steve chose Noah specifically because his clients prefer meat from young women. He reassures her this is just kind of a thing that he does, so she should calm down and try not to take it so personally. And to keep her from panicking, he tells her he intends to keep her alive as long as possible in order to keep her meat fresh. So over the next few weeks, he'll anesthetize her and remove different sections of her body, while simultaneously keeping her healthy and hydrated with nutrient-dense foods and plenty of fluids. Eventually, Noah convinces Steve she needs a shower, but she really intends on trying to escape once the doors open. When she makes her brave move, she's caught right away and beat up. And as punishment, Steve the surgeon surgically removes her ass. There are a million jokes to be had here, but I'm taking the high road for a change despite it being incredibly challenging. While she's recovering from the outpatient procedure, she discovers a woman named Penny's being held captive in the room right next to hers. And they get as chummy as two girls can given the circumstances. And meanwhile, back in the real world, Noah's friend Molly's naturally starting to worry. So she goes and speaks to her friend Paul, who happened to be the bartender serving Noah and Steve on their first date. After scouring the internet, Molly figures out Steve's actually a guy called Brendan who has a wife and kids. So she goes to Brendan Steve's house and tries telling his wife what her husband's been up to. And right in the middle of the lovely visit, the man himself shows up and he denies knowing anybody named Noah. But Molly's the quick one in this movie, so she calls Noah's phone and it rings in Brendan Steve's pocket. And when Brendan Steve's wife knocks Molly out, it becomes clear the couple are working as a pair. And you thought your relationship was complex. And then we learn his wife's got a prosthetic leg because she was one of Brendan's previous victims. And I can't even make a quip about that because my relationship status joke wouldn't even fit under your phone screen. Resigned to the idea she's not gonna get out of her situation, Noah decides she might as well find out what all the fuss is about with the people burgers. So Brendan makes them a lavish meal, and Noah likes it, sort of. And then Brendan takes Noah's best friend Molly off to prepare her for harvesting too. And after that's done, he invites Noah back back for a second dinner. Only this time, he gives her a pretty pink dress to wear, and somehow in my head, that's more condescending than cutting her ass off. Before sitting down on her special pillow for Din Din, Brendan shows Noah his trophy collection and the belongings he takes from his female victims. And then he serves her breast meat and tells her it may have a familiar flavor to it. But Noah saw Molly's phone amongst Brendan's trophies, so she's wise to his wicked ways. So after dinner, she talks Brendan into a bit of a final roll in the hay. And when she's got him where she wants him, she bites his balls off. And while he's cupping the gaping hole in his ghoulies, she rescues Molly and Penny from their respective dungeons. And on their way out, they bump into Brendan in the kitchen, and I've no idea how he's even thinking, never mind walking around with a plan. And after some impromptu kitchen kung fu, they all end up outside the house in the woods. And Brendan chases after them, and given his new missing manhood situation, he brings a gun along to compensate. So they all fight again, and Noah nicks the gun and shoots Brendan dead with it. Then Brendan's wife arrives and the kung fu kicks off again. But in the end, good does triumph over evil when Molly saves the day by beating the face off Brendan's wife with a shovel. And presumably, the girls go on to live happily ever after as whole people with parts of them missing. Much like many of us, I suppose. And there you have it, folks, the plot to Fresh. Let's take a look at the good bits. Story aside, this is just a really well-made movie. It's a solid script, the acting is believable, and the dialogue feels natural and authentic. And all these things combined make the premise very easy to accept. Both Daisy Edgar-Jones and Sebastian Stan are completely convincing throughout the story, which sees them exploring every possible emotional level from none at all to everyone imaginable simultaneously. Sebastian Stan's tremendous as a sly, villainous cannibal who convinces you he sincerely doesn't see anything wrong in what he's doing. And Daisy Edgar-Jones' performance, when the reality of her situation kicks in, will have you rushing off to delete dating apps from your phone, if you happen to have any, which of course I don't. Between the two stars, they totally sell the idea they've fallen for each other in the opening quarter of the movie by conveying that initial excitement that only ever lasts as long as the novelty of the new person does, which in this movie was about 30 minutes. Another nod to the writing is the formulation of Noah's escape plan. When she realizes she was the only one that Brendan was intimate with, she uses that knowledge to orchestrate her eventual escape by manipulating his twisted emotions. It was very subtle for a movie you're not likely to see the word subtlety attached to in many reviews. Overall, the concept here is straightforward and simple, and that's always going to get a thumbs up from me. Yes, the consequences might seem exaggerated and amplified, but if you actually ponder it, are they really?
The shite bits.
Obviously, I understand things are condensed and cranked up for effect in this movie, but I feel like Noah ended up alone in isolation with Brendan way too quickly. With a runtime of 116 minutes, there was definitely room to add a bit more depth to the initial courtship. By throwing in an extra 10 minutes worth of getting to know you time at the beginning would have added to the believability, and it would have doubled our devastation at the shocking reveal. Now, having said that, the movie's completely believable as it is, and I'm probably just nitpicking. And finally, as a definite nitpick, although the tone was consistent throughout the film, I found myself hoping things might go darker as the plot progressed. Fresh somehow manages to keep the dangers of online dating and abduction and cannibalism lighthearted, which is no mean feat. But wouldn't this have been the ideal time to drill down deeper into the actual heaviness of the subject matter? By not taking itself seriously, it's absolutely a much smoother viewing experience, but maybe you don't want something like this to be so easily digested. Surely there's a real message to be absorbed under all the tongue-in-cheek stuff here, isn't there?
The verdict.
So, should you watch Fresh if you haven't seen it yet, or should you go into your computer or phone and delete the app that holds it so you can watch a nice, normal, happy, old-fashioned movie instead? Fresh gets a 4-star rating from me. Yes, it might not be to everyone's taste, and if you're the kind of person that struggles to swallow such a raw premise, you might want to move on to the next movie buffet. But if you're a fan of succulent, spicy, sinister cinema, serve yourself up a big bloody helping of Fresh. Until next time, folks. It's me, Johnny, from that thing you just watched. If you enjoyed it, go down there and smash me in the face to subscribe. And if you want to watch another thing, there's one right there. Do it!